On Christmas Eve in the Wyoming Territory, when the wind cut sharp through the canyons and the land itself felt lawless, a father and his two sons saddled their horses and rode toward danger, not to confront it, but to offer kindness. In Salt Creek Canyon in 1888, 4 outlaws were hiding from the law, their dugout carved into the earth and their guns never far from their reach. They were wanted men, strangers in a hard country where survival mattered more than reputation. And yet, on that cold December day, neighbors arrived not with warrants or rifles, but with Christmas gifts. The pioneers of outlaw country, cowboys, lawmen, and outlaws, to the businessmen and women, who all helped shape Wyoming. Here are their stories. An Outlaw Christmas in Wyoming Territory.
In the wilds of Wyoming Territory near present-day Newcastle, a father decided to celebrate Christmas by showing his sons what the season was truly about. Alfred Nelson showed by his actions that he was not only a man of courage, but a strong man of faith that believed in the redemption of all, and that no one should be alone on Christmas, even outlaws. Welcome to Pioneers of Outlaw Country, Wyoming's history. I am your host, Jackie Dorothy, and today we are bringing you a special holiday story that could have only happened in the wild and woolly days of the cowboy state. When Buck Hanby and his gang arrived in the Wyoming Territory in 1888, they were welcomed with enthusiasm. The September 1888 Sundance Gazette announced that for the last few weeks, our town has frequently been visited by 4 or 5 long-haired, wild and woolly-looking individuals. They had all the paraphernalia of such gentry in the way of a fine display of six-shooters, big, large jingling spurs, and bucking horses. A few of the newcomers were noticeably adorned in cavalry soldiers' clothing, stripes and all, and did not try to hide their arrival in Sundance whenever they visited. The Sundance Gazette went on to say that reports have been circulated here that there were gentlemen largely interested in horses and cattle and had come from Texas to settle in Crook County. The people around Salt and Oil Creeks, where these parties have been making their headquarters, were congratulating themselves with the idea that quite an acquisition had been made to their fast-growing settlement. What wasn't known at the time was that the leader of the gang, Buck Hanby, had ridden in under an alias and was wanted for murder. However, even after folks learned this little tidbit, the men were left alone since able-bodied people were needed in the isolated country. Deputy Sheriff Jack Rogers soon received word from the sheriff of Dundee County, Nebraska, to be on the lookout for some stolen horses. The description of the horse thieves fit the gun-toting newcomers, and Rogers conducted a clever plan to gather them up without danger of gunplay. The Sundance Gazette shared that on Tuesday evening, when 5 of the long-haired wearers were in town, Rogers, with the assistance of City Marshal Swisher, succeeded in getting the men divided into small drinking squads. They gathered the whole 5 in and safely stored them in the county jail. It turned out that only 3 of the prisoners were apparently the horse thieves. While 2 of the men were released, Buck Hanby, William H. Brown, and Jim Fisher were brought under guard to Nebraska to face horse theft charges. But all 3 reappeared back at their dugout in Crook County by Christmas. Dick Nelson was just 13 years old when his family arrived in the region. His dad, Alfred, homesteaded on Oil Creek, becoming the Gaines' nearest neighbor. Buck Hanby and his men had built a half dugout, 16 by 20 feet wide on their homestead on the east side of Salt Creek Canyon and south of the Red Butte. 60 years later, Dick wrote a short history about these neighbors. Nelson said he and his family knew they were wanted in Dodge City, Kansas, but had only heard rumors why they were fugitives. Hanby had recruited a young man who was clear of the law as their contact man. The local gossip was that relations and friends back home would send post office money orders in the name of this contact man to Sundance, Wyoming. As needed, the young man would take the pack horses, go to Sundance, cash the money orders, and buy the supplies needed so that it would not be necessary for the gang members said to be wanted by the law to show up in town. Sheriff Jack Rogers of Crook County, who had already arrested them once before, knew they were in Salt Creek Canyon, but as long as no complaints came in of wrongdoings in his section of the Wyoming Territory, he felt he had no right or reason to bother them, according to Nelson. On the day before Christmas in 1888, Alfred Nelson and his son Frank decided to make a goodwill Christmas cheer call on the Hanby gang and let 13-year-old Dick Nelson tag along. As they neared the Gaines' dugout home, they were met by the contact man who wanted to know who they were and what they wanted. After Alfred had explained to the young man that they had good intentions, this contact man told them to stay right there while he brought their message to the men. He soon returned and told them that they could go in, but only if they left their horses and guns with him. Alfred told him that was fine.
We are here, as I said before, only because it is Christmas time, and we thought the boys might care to talk to someone who is not out to get them.
Dick said that as he followed his dad into the dugout, being just a kid, he was pretty shaky. They were told by the contact man to go down the steps, knock on the door, and enter when told to come in. Alfred went first, then Frank, and Dick was last. When Alfred opened the door, the three good wishers were faced by four men, each holding 2 guns. After a few tense seconds that seemed a long time to Dick, Hanby put his guns away and shook Alfred's hand.
No doubt the young man told you who we are and why we are here. These are my sons, Frank and Dick. And if we are not welcome, say so, and we will go.
Dick said that Hanby instead responded that they were glad to see them and told the other 3 to put away the guns and meet their Christmas friends. They were all then seated and a general conversation was carried on. Dick said that Hanby proceeded to talk about why he was hiding out on the east side of Salt Creek Canyon and south of the Red Butte. His brother owned and ran a saloon in Dodge City, according to Hanby. One day, as he rode by the saloon, he heard shots being fired inside. Hanby said that he got off his horse and looked in. 2 men were shooting toward the back bar, and he saw his brother, who was on shift as a bartender, drop as if shot. Hanby was armed and whipped out his gun. He shot and killed both men. Only after they were lying dead did he find out his brother had not been shot, but had dropped to the floor to get out of the line of fire. The 2 men had been shooting glasses off the back bar, not at his brother, so Hanby was arrested and placed in jail. The judge would not let him out on bail. Unfortunately for Hanby, the men he had killed had good connections, and he was not brought to trial. After months of being held as a prisoner, he escaped from the jail and rode one of the sheriff's horses out of the country. Hanby got together with the other 3 men, and while searching for a place to hold out, found the remote Oil Creek. They were now waiting for time to smooth things out so that they could go back home. After a few more stories were exchanged, Alfred stood and shook hands with the men, who thanked them for coming. The contact man brought their horses up near the dugout, and the 4 gang members followed Alfred and his sons out of the dugout. Alfred then gave the gang a real surprise when he took out of their saddlebags the donuts and cookies his wife and daughters had made for that trip, hoping their neighbors would enjoy them during the holidays. Dick saw Hanby only once after that. The fugitive remembered the boy and thanked him for his Christmas time visit. Not long after, in May 1889, Hanby was shot and killed when he resisted arrest by sheriff's deputies on a warrant from Kansas to bring him back for trial. The newspapers of the time all had differing accounts of the shooting, and none could even agree on Hanby's real name. For Dick, Hanby's real name didn't matter. Just the truth of what had happened when Hanby had mistakenly defended his brother. Or at least that was the Outlaws' version of the events. As Hanby's gang scattered, Dick was left with the memory of how his family spread Christmas cheer all those years ago to suspected outlaws who had little hope of a future as they hid out in a dugout in the remote Wyoming Territory. Thank you for listening to Pioneers of Outlaw Country, Wyoming's history. Merry Christmas from our cabin to yours. I'm Jackie Dorothy, wishing you all the best for the coming year. This episode was brought to you by Rooted in Legacy, where we help people preserve their stories for prosperity. We all have stories worth telling, tales of family, grit, love, and resilience. But too often, those stories fade away because they were never written down. That's where I come in. At Rooted in Legacy, I help you preserve your life story or your loved ones, so it will not be forgotten. Together, we'll turn memories into a lasting legacy that future generations can hold on to. If you've been wanting to preserve those family stories but didn't know where to start, I'd love to help. My website is legendrockmedia.com, or just follow the link in the show notes to schedule a free call with me, personally. Rooted in Legacy, because every story deserves to be told. This was a production of Legend Rock Media.